Hello there. Um, I'm making a video and I want to explain what I am, who I am, what I am, and what I want. Um, I'll try to keep this video to an hour. I don't want to make it longer than an hour because no one wants to watch a video that's longer than an hour, probably. Um, I'm in my dressing gown as usual. So, yeah, I'm well aware. So, what am I? Who am I? Um, well, let me explain. So, the sun that's in the sky, it radiates energy. It's radiating energy all the time, 24/7, non-stop. Um, and, that gives everyone life. The sun isn't the most spectacular star. Well, it's not the biggest star in the universe. It's not the brightest star in the universe, but it is the most important star in the universe because there would be no life in the universe without it. So, that's an important thing to understand. Um, so, what am I? And, well, I am who I say I am. I'm God. I was Jesus Christ. If you are familiar with the Gospel of John, it talks about the Word and how um, the Word was God. And let me read it to you. Let's just do a quick reading, okay? Got my little Bible here. So go to the Gospel of John, chapter 1. The Word became flesh. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all might believe. He himself was not the light, he came only as a witness to the light. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and through the world was and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision, or a husband's will, but born of God. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. So I'll stop there, okay? Because that's, I think that's enough. Hopefully you can understand what I'm trying to say. I mean, if you look at the English language, what does the word son mean? Um, son is a word. In fact, there are two words actually that are pronounced exactly the same: sun and sun. You know, the sun in the sky that gives life to everybody, and every man that was ever born on this planet is the son of somebody. So, um, let me give you an example. I was born and I was given the name Grant. Now, the word grant means to give. It's a formal way of saying give. So my mom granted me the name Grant. My mom became very influential. You know, she divorced my dad, you know, before I was even born. Um, in the mid '90s, when I was 8 years old, my mom um, had a lesbian relationship, and her girlfriend moved into the house that we were living in London, in southeast London. Um, this was at a time when I went to school when everyone was running around saying, Gaylord, 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 Gaylord. Obviously, society's changed a lot since then. But this is the thing. I've lived a very strange life. I didn't know who I was until, well, I found out. It was 2019. It was, yeah, 2019, 2020, 2021. I started to figure out who I am because of the things that happened to me and the things that I saw, um, all the reflections of what I was doing in my life being reflected in the rest of the world. That's how I figured out who I am. I am the light of the world. I'm God. Um, so what is it? What is it? Let me explain that a bit more then. So, this is the thing. My energy is, I guess, in one way I could explain it like my energy, it leaks everywhere. So it leaks through words. People mimic me. They use their words, their actions, and it reflects me. If someone goes outside in the daylight and the sun illuminates that person, and that's kind of how this is kind of how it works. People are illuminated by my light. And so, y- if you think of the most famous celebrities in the world, they all reflect me in one way or another. Um, you need to have a good understanding of what magic is and how magic works, and the words, the actions, how magic power flows. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, you can think of the word magic. The story of the three kings. When Jesus was born, there were the three kings. They were called the Magi. Well, that's the thing. Jesus was the Magi. Or well, you could say it was Joseph or Jesus, couldn't you? But the fact is, Jesus was born, came from Mary, the mother, Guy. Yeah. Magic. It's um yeah, that's an example. So, excuse me. So, um I've spent a long time trying to explain this to people and try to show people. I just keep showing people reflections of, how the world reflects me. And the thing is that people, they, they all take a slice of the pie. Everyone's trying to take a slice of the pie. And so what happens is that my energy, it radiates out, it goes out, it leaks out, and it creates all these reflections everywhere, all these different reflections, and people keep trying to, what they do is they reflect me, but then it gets mixed with other things and mixed with other names and ideas and words and magic, and people are always doing these sort of magic spells. um and what do I do? Well, with on I'm on Facebook, and what I do is I put the jigsaw. I kind of, in a sense, what I'm doing is I'm putting the jigsaw pieces back together. um so I'm I mean, imagine, the sun that's in the sky. If it just said to itself, well, I don't want to radiate my energy out to anyone anymore. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to surround myself with a bunch of mirrors so I can see my light shining back at me. Um, I mean, that's basically sort of what I'm doing. And basically, I'm just building up all these mirrors around me that just, it shines all the light back at me. And so, and the thing is, well, the thing is that people, if imagine a world that didn't know that the sun existed, right? They went outside during the daylight, but that star in the sky, they didn't even realize it was there. They were just like, yeah, what's that? They didn't even notice it was there. Even a blind person, someone's blind, when they go outside, they can feel the heat of the sun. Um, and, the warmth, the heat of the sun. And, imagine a world that didn't even notice that. That's how that's, and the thing is that, you see, there's all this, this is the thing. I'm God. I'm supposed to get the glory. And people, they, they're, well, this is the thing. I'm essential to life. And that's how important I am. I'm like the sun. That's how important I am. Without me, people can't exist without me. Um, people on this planet would die, and that's the problem. Um, there's this, the way things are is that if I don't, obviously I'm struggling in the sense that, my health isn't as good as it should be. Um, I'm stressed. I've gone through a lot of stress, and people don't like me, and people shun me, and people, um I mean, that's the thing. I'm I was thinking, I'm trying not to go off topic here, but imagine, I think I've already done it. I've already forgot. But if there's like a group of guys and girls, and let's say, a really handsome man joins the group, or a really beautiful woman joins the group, how that can affect the group. How people can get jealous and how people behave, and you know, um, it's kind of like that. Imagine a situation like that. There are people who feel intimidated by that person, and that's basically, it's just my energy is so huge that it's that, you know my life, that's why I get rejected by people. I've lived a life where it's been like that. um that's kind of basically what happens to me. I get shunned. um My energy is what it is. The world is having so many problems because of me. I'm connected to everything. I mean, you switch on the news, you go look at the news, or you look what's happening, what music videos are being put out, or what movies are being put out, or what books are being put out. It's all connected to me. I'm God, I'm the Word. Um, I am the light of the world. So, everything reflects me in some way or another, whether it's in a small way or a big way. Um, what is art? What is art? Why are people drawn to creating art in a particular type of art? Whether it's music or a painting or a movie or whatever. Um, what that does is, my energy gets siphoned. That's the thing. My energy gets siphoned, and that art becomes a magic piece. It's like it's a magic piece that is connected to me in some sense. Um, so this is the thing. People like my energy, but they don't necessarily like me. That's the problem. People want my energy, but they don't want me. Um, and that's the problem. And so this is the situation. If people, that's the thing. People want to take from me what belongs to me without giving anything back. Let me give you a really good example. Okay, so you might be familiar with the Wheel of Fortune card in the tarot deck. It has the Roman numeral X, which is 10. Um, so I have an ex-girlfriend. Okay, the last girlfriend I had was when I was 24. Was the last time I was with her. I lived with her for 1 year. She was from Poland. Her name was Ania Bilak, and she was her birth sign. Her sun sign is Sagittarius. Okay. And also because I'm a Scorpio, Scorpio is the sun sign, with the sign which is behind Sagittarius. Although people often argue about Ophiuchus, which is the serpent bearer, right? Um, so yeah, um, she really has caused me so many problems. So the Wheel of Fortune card, it's X. The social media platform. It was called Twitter. Now it's called X. Right? Elon Musk, he owns SpaceX. What does X mean? Well, it's associated with the Wheel of Fortune, whatever that means. Yeah. Um, why is you know I've definitely gone on. I'm trying not to go off topic here, but yeah. See, the thing is that I keep trying to stop people from running away with my energy, because there's all these spells that have been designed. I mean, that's essential. That's what astrology is. Astrology, people looked at the stars, and they put an image on it and made up a story, and they created this system. It's a system of spells, and then you have tarot cards and Lenormand cards, and they all these are all spells that are all used in combination with one another. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to stop people from trying to take my energy. And they keep, if it's like a game of whack-a-mole, a whack-a-mole on the head, and then it pops up another place and it's whack, 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 whack. And in the meantime, we got all these problems that are going on in the world: war, disease, poverty, famine, and obviously these things can get worse. While I sit here and, I'm unhealthy, I don't get time to go outside. And, I've barely seen the sun I've barely been outside in about 4 years. Um, so, it's, you know, the, that's the problem. This is the problem. This is what needs to be. I need to be happy and healthy, and things can get better. Um, I'm not, um, you know, I'm not really here to force a lot of things on people. Like, I'm not here to, um, well, I am God. I do have a responsibility. I did promise people things, justice, or I've there's a lot of things that need to happen. um, but ultimately, what is my goal? I want to live in a nice house. I want to be happy. Um, I want to be somewhere where I feel I don't have nasty people around me who are gonna do things like break my doorbell or steal, park in front of my car where they shouldn't be parked and trying to pretend that they're me. And trying to use, chariot magic to try to steal my destiny. People who want to argue with me. These are people who um people using all kinds of crazy spell work against me, and it's really bad. It's really nasty spell work they're using against me. um and at the end of the day, the how did I manage to get this far? How did I manage to do all this? Well, the fact is, I don't, if I die next week or next month, am I worried? Not that much, really. I know who I am. That's all. Why should I be worried? Why should I be worried? There's no reason for me to be worried. But, the fact is, I'm 38 years old. I'm having a bit of a midlife crisis. I'll be honest. I'm not happy. It upsets me, the fact that, I'm 38 years old and I've had 38 years of nonsense to deal with. And it is very upsetting, um, that people keep doing this to me. Um, and of course, people will question, if I say I'm God, people will be like, well, are you? Are you sure about that? People are going to have a lot of questions about that. Like, like, oh, you're white. We thought you were brown, or, why don't you have long hair and a beard? Just all kinds of weird stuff like that. Like, oh, we thought we were gonna see you floating on a cloud somewhere. Um, you know what I'm saying? Oh, which one? No, I wonder which one, huh? Um, yeah, I mean, so the thing is that you know in the Bible it talks about giving glory to God, because this is ultimately man and woman, mankind's biggest problem, right? Um, it's a weird word, isn't it? Mankind. Is man really that kind? Or we'll just call them mankind. But men and women, human beings. Okay. This is the problem. You don't want to give. Most people don't want to give glory to God. And that's the problem. If I was a homeless person and I went and gave them £100,000, and then afterwards everyone's like, "Whoa, where did you get that money from?" And they say, "Oh, I found it in a dustbin," or yeah, it definitely wasn't that guy who gave it to me. Um, you know what I mean? It would be um, yeah, it would be a very unpleasant thing, wouldn't it? I mean, you can think about that. Um, well, that's the thing. I look around the world and the world keeps mimicking me. It doesn't matter if it's a YouTube channel or it's the news, or it's Sky News. I'm seeing events in the world. People are having wars. People having, this is the cause of, the disease. Yeah, it's a very serious problem that needs this is a very serious problem that needs to be dealt with. Um, and it's not that I want to rule like a tyrant. I want to be happy. I'm stuck in this situation. I'm God. Okay, I am the light of the world, and I'm in this situation that I'm in, and I want to be happy. I want to live somewhere nice. I want to have people acknowledge who I am. Because if people acknowledge who I am, that means, um, you know, that that it means that, well, that's if people don't acknowledge who I am, then I'm people just keep hitting me with spell work again and 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 again. And what's going to happen? I will deteriorate, and you'll probably have World War III at the same time. That's basically, it's total destruction. If I'm living in a world, I mean, this is how it is. You can't live without me. um so people need to learn how to live with me, um because without me, the results will be disastrous. um and I don't want that. But that's simply how the situation is. I mean, if the sun in the sky didn't exist, um, you would soon know about it, wouldn't you? Exactly. So, if you're wondering why I keep turning my head and nodding like that, it's because Archangel Michael is here beside me. And believe it or not, he was Michael Jackson. He is Michael Jackson. Um, and Aaliyah Dana Houghton, her ghost is on the front of me. She was the Virgin Mary who gave birth to Jesus. Um, Also, another ghost that is here is Lisa Left Eye Lopez. Lisa Left Eye Lopez from TLC. If you actually investigate, so um, Aaliyah died on the 25th of August 2001, so which was a couple of weeks before the 9/11 accident. Well, not the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Um, Lisa, she died in 2002. I can't remember which day it was. It was probably, yeah, I would have to look, but um Michael Jackson, he died on the 25th of August, I think. Um so, there's a close connection between these deaths. How did I figure out who these ghosts are? Well, I actually figured out who Aaliyah was first of all, because it was probably about it was probably 2019 or 2020, the beginning of 2020. I figured that out because I was communicating with them, and they literally touch me, so they can push me, pull me. They can. I feel them on my body all the time. So there's a physical touch thing happening with them, and um, I feel them physically. And so they can make me nod, and so that's I don't actually hear them. I don't I don't audibly hear them. I feel them and they touch me. So um and I found out who Aaliyah was because I found out she was black and that she was famous. And I was looking at the events of 9/11 a lot. I always, I've been looking at that for a long time, trying to figure out what was all that about and how's that connected to all these different things. Um and then I found out Aaliyah died in 2001 in a plane crash. Um and the thing about that is, well, before 9/11, in 2001, when I was a kid, I got that film Romeo Must Die on DVD. I had it on a Region 1 version of the DVD. I didn't have many Region 1 DVDs, so it was an American DVD. Um, and that was the first time I saw her. So, I used to watch that film, and I didn't know she had died. I had no idea that she died until the end of 2019, or the beginning of 2020, when I found out about her plane crash. And when I found out about that, then I found out it was her. That I found out it's her that's on the front of my body. And and obviously I've questioned it. I don't just I question I test these things again and again and again and again and again and again and again. I didn't just wake up one day and think, oh, I'm God. No, it took about like a year of me saying, am I God? 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 Could this be real? Is this true? This happened. This went on for a long time. This is over a course of a year, 2 years. And there would be days where it's like, no, 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 I'm not. I can't do this. Like, I'm blaspheming. I can't be claiming I'm God. Like, this is wrong. I would freak out and be like, this ain't right. This ain't, and then I would, um, yeah. And so this is the thing. It's been a battle. It's been a very crazy battle. Um, I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to be like, I'm God when I'm not. I am God though. I know who I am. So, um, what do I mean, why do, I mean, it's the thing, all I got to do is open Facebook and post stuff. I don't even have to do that. You know what I mean? Like, whatever I do in my life is reflected in the world. But the fact is, if I'm just the guy sitting at home who just eats dinner or cleans the house and watches television, you would never know. You would never be able to see what it is that I'm doing. You would never be able to see what my life looks like and then see how it's reflected in the rest of the world. So I have to post stuff on Facebook so people can actually have a chance to see what's really going on. Um, so, and obviously, it's called Facebook. You know what I mean? Like, this is my face, and this is a book, right? Facebook. Figure it out. Um, yeah. Anyway, I need to smoke a cigarette. I am trying to quit. I'm sort of in the process of quitting. Um, I'm changing to vaping. I'm sort of half vaping, half smoking, sort of, or at least that's what I'm trying at the moment. Um, so yeah. Um, mm, what can I talk? So what do I want to say? So I mean, if you look at people keep doing magic against what I eat. Okay, so you know how Jesus said, "I am the light of the world." Well, that's the thing. Jesus is who I was, right? I was Jesus Christ. I am So the world, what does the world mean? Well, the world is called planet Earth. And Earth is soil, is dirt. You could say poo is Earth, right? And that's essentially what it is, right? So the universe is connected to my butt. Um, it's my throne, it's where I sit. And so um the and this is also why it's connected with Germany as well, right? This is why there's this German connection as well, because germ man or germ many. um excuse me. So there's a very strong German connection, okay, in terms of magic and um yeah. There's a lot more I could say about that, but um maybe another time I'll talk about that. So hang on a sec. Oh. um yeah. What was I going to say? Give me a second. So this is the thing. People keep doing, you know, so like I was saying, the light of the world. Okay, the world, earth, soil, poo, right? So what I eat is associated with light. So there's all, if you look at the tarot deck, okay, if you look at the Rider-Waite tarot deck, and this is the thing, because there's multiple different decks, okay? So, whether it's the Thoth deck or it's the Rider-Waite deck or it's another deck, usually you got number 8, okay, which is either going to be justice or, well, adjustment in the Thoth deck, which is supposed to mean justice, um, which is it's a Libra card. And then you got Leo. So Leo in the Rider-Waite deck, the Strength card is a Leo card. So strength is it's the woman with the lion, and the idea of the strength card is these are all mixed. So you've got the idea of strength and courage and fortitude and lust, and that's mixed with the idea of justice, because those numbers are switched around, aren't they? I mean, even if look at what happened at 9/11. Yeah. So I mean, if you think about it, September is the it's called the ninth month. So you're in the ninth month, but how many months and days have passed since the beginning of the year? Well, it would have been 8 months and 11 days. Not, it would have been 8 months and 11 days, not 9 months. You don't get to January and think, oh yeah, a month's already passed since New Year's Day, do you? It's actually, you're in the first month. It's 9/11. You that was in the ninth month, which means 8 months and 11 days. But anyway, there's all this crazy magic associated with that happening. It was a ritual. That's what it was. It was a ritual. um, so, it was a magic ritual. The Big Apple, the butt, yeah, apple butt, apple bum, apple bottom. You've heard of that, right? Um, so yeah, um, the thing is that Scorpio is in astrology considered to be the eighth house, right? So, I put food in my mouth, I eat, and that becomes eight. And I'm a Scorpio, so I house what I have eaten, right? That is the light going through me. So the world is, I put food in my mouth, and the world is doing all this crazy magic against the food that goes through my body. And there's all this, that's the thing about the tarot deck is designed to trap me. That's what it is. Really what I need to do is do a video explaining how that all works, but let me give you some examples. Okay. I mean, in the Lenormand deck, right? So I've got this is the Blue Owl Lenormand. So the owl is the number 12 card, right? Which is where I live in house number 12. That's what my house is, right? So, and there's the 31. That's the sun, which is number 31. In tarot, 13 is the death card, right? So there's that's magic. There's a strong magic connection with that. But I will, let me find a. Oh, and here's another example. 8, right? In the Lenormand deck, that's a coffin. That's to do with death, right? It's what I eat that is considered to be the sun. The sting in the tail is associated with anal sex magic. So, this is why, the sun, the moon, and the stars, they're all, that's the idea. It's all connected to the butt, my butt, or the butt. It's, to the cross. So this is the thing, right? People do Celtic cross spreads, but what is a Celtic cross? It's a cross with a circle around it, and it's to do with, that's to do with sex magic as well. I mean, let me give you a quick confirmation about this. Okay, so chapter 11, Book of Revelation, chapter 11. Okay, I've read this so many times. It talks about the two witnesses. I was given a reed like a measuring rod and was told, go and measure the temple of God and the altar with its and the altar with its worshippers, but exclude the outer court. Wait, hang on, let me just I'll skip that bit. What does it say here? So it talks about the two witnesses. It says here, now, in verse 7, it says, now, when they have finished their testimony, the beast that comes up from the abyss will attack them and overpower and kill them. Their bodies will lie in the public square of the great city, which is figuratively called Sodom and Egypt, where also their Lord was crucified. Well, Sodom is associated with sodomy, and Egypt is associated with bondage. So this is why there is this obsession with certain types of sex magic, because it's the light of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, which is my past. Okay, and this is why people keep doing all this crazy poo magic against me. I mean, look, right? If I eat something and it comes out of my if I go for a poo, right? That is what I ate. It's what I eat, yeah. I don't eat shit. But the fact, well, that's the thing. Everyone eats. You eat something and then you shit it, right? But eight, death, and look, this is death. 13 is the death card in tarot. Well, this is 31. This is backwards. This is the backwards, right? So look at these two cards, right? I mean, look at, so the Emperor in the tarot deck is number 4. Yeah, so in the Lenormand's deck, the fourth card is the House card, right? I'm not am I a house? I mean, you could call it, well, that's the thing, right? Because, you know, the, in the Bible, it talks about Jesus being the head of the church. The church is called the house of God. Yeah. So number 4, and obviously look at the card that they've associated with number 4. He's the King of Cups. He's the King of Hearts, isn't he? So strange how that happens. Yeah. I mean, and look at this. This is the dog card, right? Number 18. In tarot, 18 is the moon card, right? The moon is associated with the butt. Well, dog, if the reverse of God is dog. Yeah, I mean, all this is magic to siphon energy from me, and people just mess around with this stuff. And, um, that's what happens. I mean, that, am I against astrology and tarot? Well, the way I look at it now, I look at, it's a system that can be used. But, it needs, if it's going to be used, really, it needs to be used acknowledging that, who I am. If people actually acknowledge, if I was living in a world where people acknowledge that I'm God and they were using these things, then it wouldn't really be such a problem. But the fact is that because no one will acknowledge me, and they keep using all these cards, like, "Ooh, am I an empress? Am I the emperor? Am I the king of pentacles? Am I the king of cups? Am I this? Oh, you're a queen of wands, or you're a queen of this, or queen of that." You know what I mean? It's like, no, it's like, come on. It's like, are you really a queen? Are you really the emperor? Are you really the You know what I mean? Like, it's all this is, it's fantasy, make believe, in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, depends how you look at it, of course. But people are in their egos, right? They want to, how many people think, how many YouTube channels have you got where women like to claim that they're a goddess, or that they're a god, or that they're the king of this or the king of that. Do you know what I mean? Like, people do all sorts of crazy things. They make crystal penises, right? They'll have, like, someone will get a crystal and have it shaped into a penis, or someone will have a crystal that's, it's like it's phallus shaped or something, or they'll have a crystal and they'll put a crown on it, right? There's one channel I've seen a woman. She's got stone angels. She's got angels carved in stone, and she's got a phallus, like a tall crystal, and she puts a little crown on top of it. Yeah, I was Jesus Christ. The word Christ is very similar to the word crystal. That's why crystals, there is that magic word connection between those two. So, yeah, let me, so this is the thing. the King of Swords. So the sword is to do with air. It's to do with logic and communication. Well, so so if I'm the emperor, and okay, so what's the Four of Swords then? The Four of Swords is a card of someone lying down. And this is the problem. Because it's the word lying. What does it mean to lie? I'm sitting on my bed right now. I could be lying down on my bed. Does that make me a liar? What are we talking about? This is why people lie about me. This is why people constantly lie, 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 lie. They're always trying to twist the narrative against me. And then, because it's because of this magic. This is designed to trap me. I mean, this is the thing, right? I live like a hermit. I'm a Virgo moon, by the way. And Aaliyah Dana Houghton, she's a Virgo moon as well. She's a Capricorn sun and a Virgo moon. And she sits on my face. And, he's called the, her, it. M is a magic way of saying butt, right? So it's basically just saying the guy who's her butt. That's one way of looking at it. Here's the Three of Swords, right? So, the Empress, she's considered number 3. How does she communicate? Oh, well, it's, she's breaking someone's having their heart broken. Who's having their heart broken? I mean, notice where this is pictured in the clouds. It's up in the sky. Yeah, like someone's having their heart broken. Yeah, this is what the so-called, this is why women want to break my heart, because they want to be the Empress. But there's this magic spell. There's this magic spell, which is, break God's heart, and now you're the Empress. That's basically what it is. We got the Hanged Man. Which way around is he supposed to be? This way or that way? What does it mean to hang out with somebody? This is why I don't associate. This is why I had to get rid of all the people I used to call friends, because I can't be around anybody without them siphoning my energy. Because if I hang out with them, they'll be like, "Oh, I must have been Jesus Christ then." Do you see what I mean? This is the problem. I mean, so V is the 22nd letter of the alphabet. Aaliyah Dana Houghton, she died when she was 22 years old. My mom was a Taurus. The idea of the Taurus card is, well, I mean, the Hierophant that's a title from, he's like the high priest of the cult of Demeter. Demeter. This is about anal sex magic and the damage that it can result from anal sex magic. Taur, right? Taurus. Yeah. Why is Archangel Michael in the Temperance card? Do you know what I mean? Well, because, mixing. That's one of the reasons. I'm just giving you some ideas to look at. But here's the Ten of Swords. What is the ultimate truth? I mean, you would think like, why does you would think, this could have been something else, couldn't it? Like Ten of Swords shouldn't Ten of Swords be the ultimate truth? Like, what is the ultimate truth? The Ten of Swords. But, well, this is what it depicts. A guy being stabbed in the back until he's dead. Who do you think I am? This is what the world is trying to do to me. It wants to do this to me. And instead, what have I got to do? What have I got to do to get out of this mess? I've got to I've got to do what people, I'm going to be, people have their expectations of, what the second coming of Jesus Christ is supposed to look like. Well, I can tell you, what's happening is very different from what people expected, right? Hopefully you figured that out already. And this is the other thing about this card, right? Because obviously the Emperor is number 4 and the Lovers, they're number 6. Well, if you look at the Roman numerals for 6, um, you know, um, if that is backwards, it's 4, isn't it? So, this is the thing. The Garden of Eden is associated with my butt. It's my ass. So what else can I say? Yeah. Got the sun card here. They obviously had to put, this small looking, it looks like a little boy on this horse, this white horse. Obviously, the sun and the sun, why have people done that? Well, it's because my power is delivered through words. And so that's why people have, that's why that has been done. Let me see what else we got here. I mean, the star, right? The star. I mean, the word star backward is rats. What is a rat? What does a rat do? Just another idea to think about. And obviously, that's associated with, I'm told that's, is this is associated with the star Sirius? The two stars, the dog star, Sirius, Sirius A and Sirius B. Yeah. And, also, excuse me. But you notice, there's 7 white stars, and then there's this 8th star, which is here. Well, I was born in 1987. So 19 is the number of the sun card. And then you've obviously got the numbers, if you count all these together, you've got 8. And then you've also got 7 there as well. So I was born in 1987. 14th of November, which is the same birthday as King Charles III. My dad is also called Charles. I haven't seen him for a very, very long time. Okay. Now, what else can I mention? Yeah, I've got a Salvador Dali tarot deck. And the full card in that is a Scorpio card, strangely enough. Actually, what happened to me when I was in 29, it was early 2019, and this was before I knew who I was, right? I was still living in Brighton back then. And what happened was I got attacked by ghosts. I got all these ghosts. They attacked my body. I felt physically threatened by demons. And so what I did was I didn't know what to do. So I walked towards the cliffs, which there's the cliffs near Brighton. There's the Seven Sisters cliffs, the White Cliffs. If you don't know what that is, you can Google it and have a look. The Seven Sisters, it's called. And so I walked that way towards a place called New Haven. And I went up, I wanted to go up to the cliffs because I wanted to pray. I wanted to try to figure out what it is I'm going to do in my life because I was getting attacked by demons. And so, yeah, that's what happened. Um, and yeah, believe it or not, I've got a lot of enemies. Yeah, it's a lot of demons that want to fight me. So, um, what else can I mean, this is the other connection. I mean, obviously, the moon card, it has two of these, towers in the background of of the moon card, right? But it's the two were. Well, obviously, what happened on 9/11. I mean, it was a magic ritual that was being done. Um, so yeah, I know I'm rambling a bit. Um, what else can we talk about? I mean, this is why, the Hanged Man card is associated with Pisces. The moon card, there's the moon card and there's the Hanged Man card. I live at my house number is number 12, right? You know, the world is upside down. People like to say that. So we live in an upside down world. Um, do you know what I mean? Like people just constantly doing so much spell work against me. It's all designed to keep me trapped. But what I'm doing what I have to do. This is why I work as much as I do, because it's there's the way I look at it, there's nothing else for me to do. There's nothing else for me to do because I could go out and people can just try to siphon energy from me, false friends, or people who don't like me, people who want to argue with me and fight with me. Um I need to have I need a new foundation, and the foundation, I need to, with people, people have to acknowledge who I am so I can move forward, so that I can, well, I need acknowledgement from the world, because um that is the way to move forward. Otherwise it's death and destruction all day long. um and that's it. And the fact is, I know who I am, and I know I'm winning. Um, I know that people would like to try to stop me, and they will try to use every trick in the book to try and do it. Um, but really, there is no escape from my power. Um, Even if I were to die tomorrow or the day after or whatever, it doesn't really matter. I still am God, and I'll still be God. Um, and you know, people might not like that. Well, I can't really change that. I can't change who I am to make you feel better. And you need to understand that. I can't, I am who I am, and your best option is, accept who I am, right? Accept who I am, because you need to make steps towards these things, because I can't, what else can I do? I can't change who I am. I can't change who I am, in that way. I'm God. Excuse me, I need, oh, getting really sore legs, sitting with my legs crossed. I'm sorry, this is not the most professional video, but um look, you just need to understand, I don't want to fight and contend with people. I don't want, you know, I'd rather have a good relationship with people. I don't want to, you know, I'm not here to fight and argue with you. Um, I'm more happy to be friends, to have a friendly, relationship. Um, but the only way that can happen is with acknowledgement. There's all the this is the thing, because this all has to do with magic. And people say, oh, the Bible is a book of spells. Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? I mean, all words are spells, right? I mean, and the light is, there's so much light here. That's the thing, there's light here. um the truth, obviously you have to use discernment, right? Discerning what is truth and what is false, or um how you're supposed to understand things. um but the thing, yeah, this is the thing. You have to, there's just, if people, if someone, this, I can't, I can't, deny who I am. This is the thing. I'm God, and people would like me to just put that away and say, no, don't tell us you're God. Put that in the closet somewhere, and just, we can just sort of be friends or something. And that's not going to work. um, it can't work like that. Um, what do I really want? I want to live in a house, a nice house. I don't want to have people who will harass me. I don't want to be harassed by people. I want to be somewhere where I feel safe and secure and happy. I can walk out and have a massive garden. I've got a swimming pool, jacuzzi. I've got all the nice food. I've got all the things that I like and I want. Yeah. I don't have to leave I don't have to, I mean, I want to live in a massive mansion. Yeah. Um, I mean, really, I should be at Buckingham Palace at this point, but 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 saying that, I probably wouldn't want to live there, to be quite honest. Um, Not really my style, if I'm being honest. Although I would take it if it was offered to me. um, yeah. But I just, my dream is just to be sitting in a jacuzzi somewhere, having a nice drink of alcohol, and maybe a line of something, if you know what I'm saying. And I'm not here to, I'm here to shine. That's the thing. I'm here to shine. And if people don't want me to shine, if people, well, this is the thing. People keep trying to hide my shine. That's the thing. People keep trying to take my shine and say, "Oh, this is my shine." It's like, no, 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 no. This is the you know, that's the thing. You know, it's my light. Um, it is my light, and I'm not here. I'm not here to make you feel horrible about yourself, but I'm asking you to, we need a reality check. That's what we need. We need a reality check. Can we just figure out who's God and who's not God at this point? Because this is the only way we can move forward. There's no other way. That and I understand that might not happen overnight. It might not happen. You know, it might take time to understand who I am. I get that. I've spent 4 years trying to show people who I am. And I seem to have made, well, I don't know. I hope I've made some kind of progress. I think most people, they kind of look at me as some like witch or a warlock. That's what they see, really. Um, that's what they want to believe. Yeah. I mean, it was the same in the day, in the times of Jesus. People accused him of being a witch. They accused him of being um, a demon. Yeah. I mean, this is the other thing as well. Obviously, my profile picture on Facebook, I've put devil horns on there. Well, I'm God. I mean, who's Satan? Well, that's the thing. My last girlfriend, she was called Anne or Ania. That's what her name was, Annie. Well, I sat on her, didn't I? Sat Anne. Yeah. Sat Ania. Yeah. I mean, look, there's no, people like to say there are all these different gods. And, this, well, you know, in the, God was cool in the Old Testament, he was called Elohim. Elohim is the plural of El, E-L. So, Elohim means gods. And the idea of, I am, that's the thing, I'm the light of the world. All art reflects me. And, people like to try to invent all these stories about other gods and this and that, um, you know, all that is, people are just trying to, make me wear a different pair of shoes. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, we're going to force God to try and, wear a different pair of shoes. There's only one God, and that's me. And, people will try to invent all kinds of stuff. And, yeah, I mean, obviously, they're reflections of people, of people or spirits that have been, close to me. There are reflections of people who've been the closest to me. So they reflect, like for instance, Mary or Aaliyah Dana Houghton. She was the Virgin Mary. I guess you could probably associate her with, I don't know, ISIS. ISIS, yeah, she could be associated with ISIS. But what does ISIS really mean? I mean, it's is is. I mean, essentially that just, what does that amount to? The number two. And what's a number two? We could argue all day about what a number two is, couldn't we? Or is it the second coming? Oh, you know what I mean? Or are we talking about a pile of poo? You know what I mean? Or is it someone who's doing anal sex magic or sodomy or whatever? You know, this is the thing. There's all this confusion, um, intentional confusion. I mean, here's another great example. So, obviously, Jesus said to people, said, lay up your treasures in heaven. And then obviously, I'm a Scorpio. Scorpio is associated with the Seven of Cups card. So what is that? There's all these different cups, and they're in the clouds. And obviously, the clouds. This is sort of heaven magic. That's what it is. It's heaven magic, and it's confusion, illusion, fantasy, and it's sexual fantasy as well. Yeah. And obviously it's associated with the number 7, which is connected with the Chariot card. I'm actually a Cancer rising. And obviously the idea of the rising, well, because I'm a man, it's associated with the penis, right? And also, there's Vedic astrology as well. Vedic or Vedic astrology. And in Vedic astrology, my sun sign would be Libra. And this is the thing, because obviously Aaliyah Dana Houghton, she's on top of me, and she died when she was 22. So Vedic or Vedic astrology. There's all this different crazy spell work. This is the thing, like I said, it's always like a game of whack-a-mole. It's like, okay, I dealt with this bit, and then, I've got to deal with that, and this, and that, and this, and that, and this, and this, and this, and that. And people look at what I'm doing, and they think, what the heck are you doing? It's like, I'm just dealing with all the spell work that people won't stop throwing at me. And, we're just going to keep playing this. We're just going to have to, I'm just doing what I have to do. It's not that I want to hate on you or, It's not that I'm, trying to start a war with you, or if I'm simply protecting myself from what you're doing to me. So, and how do we stop this from happening? Well, you know, the way it stops is that you acknowledge who I am. Um, you know, I mean that's how it has to be. I mean, look, here's the Seven of Swords card, right? So the seven's associated with the Chariot, Cancer. So this is to do the swords is to do with communication and logic. This is sneaky deception energy. This is communication, sneaky deception, futility. Um, yeah, no, have a good think about that one. And also, well, people use time magic against me. I mean, this is the thing. So the Chariot is number 7. And the sun is number 19. Well, on a clock, on a 24-hour clock, 19 is associated with 7 p.m. And what does time, people use bondage and time. It's timey, 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 timey. And that's all it is. People keep using binding magic, binding magic, binding magic. And they use time to try to trap me. Like someone will upload a video. And, people, I keep seeing videos appear from, like, oh, it was 4 days ago, or it was 2 days ago, or it was 4 years ago, or whatever it was. People keep using, the magic. Time is being used to try to trap me. I suppose a lot of people, they say, oh, what is God then? And they say, well, God exists outside of space and time. And well, I'm here, but what is my outside? Well, that's more butt magic, isn't it? It's more, it's that's what it is, isn't it? It's my outside. Well, that would be my butt. That's unless I'm vomiting something, right? It's my rear end where the stuff comes out, isn't it? So, anyways, I don't want to be gross. I people probably think, do I post things just to shock people? No. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to feel like a freak. I don't want to, I want to look good. I want to feel good. I don't want people, um, but I'm just doing the best that I can with the time that I've got. And that's really it. Um, yeah, I'd like to go on holiday. I haven't been on holiday for a long time. I suppose people could say I'm already on holiday because I haven't worked and I haven't had a job in many years. I quit my job in 2021. That was my last job. I worked as a van driver for Hermes, which is now called Every. Um, yeah. And before that, I used to work as a network engineer, IT network engineer. I didn't want to work in offices anymore. I got sick of being around people, so that's why I decided I'd be a van driver for a while, and that was what happened. That's when I started that job. I started it November 2019, and obviously the COVID-19 thing started weeks after I started that job. So I was considered a key worker. It was quite fun actually because I'd be driving down the roads and there'd be like no one there, no traffic. For a long time there was no traffic, and it was great just driving through the countryside and just foot to the floor everywhere. Um, and but there were a lot of parcels to move. I'll tell you that much. A lot of parcels. Anyways, yeah. Um, how did I get into learning about tarot? And well, I had no clue about it until so after my mum died, and I quit my job at Hermes. It's strange, I quit that job at Hermes, and they changed the company's name to Every, probably within weeks of me leaving. They literally changed the name as soon as I left the place. Um, and then, um, yeah, I mean, I was at home, and I was in the bathroom, and I used the bathroom light, and it hangs from the ceiling, and I noticed it just kept swinging backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, and I'm thinking, and obviously I knew, ghosts were pushing it backwards and forwards. I was like, okay. And I was like, oh yeah, what's a pendulum? So I went and looked at pendulums, and then I looked at tarot cards, and the ghost Archangel Michael. This is how I got into it. It was suggested to me that I learn about all this stuff. And I started watching tarot videos on YouTube, and I've been watching them ever since. So I've been sat watching tarot videos for about 4 years, more than anything else. So yeah, and I've done a lot of readings. I've got thousands of pounds of tarot cards now. Um, or I've got some oracle cards. I've got um, so I've done a lot of readings. I've spent a lot of time um, learning about these things and trying to deal with the problem. So, yeah, I'm doing the best I can. Um, and obviously, you know, let me smoke my cigarette. I didn't, this is the thing. When I was younger, I was a shy guy. I grew up being a shy kid, which is interesting because obviously the word shy is very similar to the word shine. That's why. And I grew up. I had a lot of anxiety and stress growing up, um, and I remember times when I've been asked to do presentations, and it's something that I would have tried to back out of. I'd be like, "Oh, I don't want to do that." Um, that's not really my thing. I tend to like to have one-on-one conversations with people rather than me speaking to a large group of people. Um, I've always felt more comfortable speaking one-on-one with people rather than speaking to a group of people. Um, that's always how I've been, and I never ever really thought of myself as um, wanting to be, some sort of, like that. I didn't, I never thought to myself, hey, you know what? I'll be on YouTube and I'll have millions of people watching me and stuff like that, and they'll all be listening to what I say. That's never really something I ever really dreamed of. Um, I wanted to be a DJ for a while. Yeah, I wanted to be a DJ, but obviously DJing's not the same as speaking. It's spinning tunes. Do you know what I mean? To a bunch of people who are wasted. Um, yeah, um, yeah. I dreamt of doing that for a while, but really, I yeah. I mean, I am who I am, so I have to do what I have to do, and um, yeah, yeah. I was thinking about that saying the other day. The elephant in the room, and I was thinking, yeah. Well, I mean, this is the thing. I'm the giant that people, um, They this is the thing. Everyone's trying to ring fence me, like I'm like a no go zone. Like, you know, what's the truth? Oh, it's anything but that guy. Let's put a ring around him. That's that everyone's trying to. This is what it kind of feels like. Everyone is looking everywhere else except the direction they're supposed to look, which is this way. Um, and I mean, this is the thing. Why do you think? You think about celebrities. You think of people like Rihanna or there's lots of different celebrities, but essentially, you know, a lot of their fame and success, a lot of it has to do with magic, magic power. How do they acquire that magic power? What how does it work? Um, Freemasonry. Why do they do all these rituals and magic? Why are they doing all these things? Well, you know, people want people want power. They want money. They want power, and it all comes from me. I am the source of all power. I am the source. I'm the creator of the universe. I created everything you know. So, we have to find a way of coexisting without destroying each other. If that makes sense. Um, that's ultimately what I want to do. But obviously, I mean, there has to be justice um, for those who deserve it as well. There has to be justice. Um, I there are a lot of people talk about the churches and the Christian faith. Well, I feel betrayed by a lot of people. Let's put it that way. Feel betrayed because the thing is that people go to churches and they talk about Jesus and they talk about God, but who are they really talking about? Who are they really aligned with? It's not, for a lot of people, it's not me. They're not. They're aligned with somebody else because there are all these people who tried to siphon my energy in the past, who try to set themselves up at trying to pretend that they're me. And so there are all these people who've got it in their heads that one of those other people is a god, someone who was trying to siphon my energy. There's so much witchcraft that people and magic that people try to attack me with to try to keep me stuck while trying to depict someone who's evil and trying to make out that they're God. And there's a lot of that going on. And that's a big part of the problem. And obviously, I'm God. I want justice. And what is my justice supposed to look like? Well, I should, I want to be the devil. Basically, I want to live the life. I want to live a life like the devil. Basically, do you know what I mean? That's basically what my justice looks like, right? So I get to be naughty God, right? I get to be, I get to live a life of luxury and getting things that I want. Um, and there are going to be people who are going to be like, they're going to be people who are jealous of that. And, that's sort of their punishment. It's like, well, you didn't love me, you hated me, and you're not doing anything to help me. So therefore, you get to watch me live a life that you'd like to live, sort of thing. That's kind of part of it. So what I'm really wanting is people to try to help me, right? I want to, you know, people either going to get in my way or they're going to help me. And ultimately, it's people's decision. Like which whose side do you want to be on? Do you want to be my enemy or do you want to be my friend? Um, that's that's how we have to, it has to go one way or the other. Um, so, I'm trying to show who I am. Um, I'm saying I'm God. And, people will find out. People will find out. People will be forced, people will be, there's going to be a day where people are forced to acknowledge who I am. Right now, though, it's like, well, you have to figure it out. So, should I grab some cards? Okay, I know this video is going a bit longer than I thought it would be. I did say an hour. Maybe we'll make it 2 hours. Okay. Right. So, got a tarot deck. Let's have a look at some. Let's draw some cards and see what we want to talk about. I'm just making sure the cards are all the right way up, because I yeah, I think I've already done it. Yeah, I think it should be okay. All right. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay. Give me a second. Okay. So, what would we like to talk about? What's the message? So we got Ace of Swords. We got the Four of Pentacles. And we got the Five of Cups. And then we got the Ten of Cups. Hang on, let me just riffle these cards. Okay, and we got Justice. Okay, so Ace of Swords, communication, thought, logic. Four of Pentacles. And the Five of Cups. Ten of Cups. And the Justice. So, I mean, that is what I was explaining, wasn't it? What was I talking about? My justice is to live a life of luxury, possessing things that I want. And the fact is, well, this is the thing, right? Because I've lived a life of, I've lived a miserable life where people keep trying to steal from me. I deserve happiness. That's my justice. I deserve to live a life of happiness. What Jesus said to the Pharisees? He said, "Ye are of your father the devil. You are of your father the devil. He was a liar and a murderer from the beginning." Well, there are going to be people who either recognize me as God, or they're going to be people who call me Satan. Now, I don't really care whether you call me God or if you call me Satan. If you want to call me Satan, fine. If you want to call me Lucifer, fine. The devil, fine. I'm okay with that. I really am. I have no problems with it, but if you want to, if you want to be like, oh yeah, he's Satan. We like Satan. Fine. If that's how you want to do it. I'm happy with that. But ultimately, well, this is the thing. I'm God. I am Satan. I'm both. Um, you know, so if you understand that I'm both, that's what I am. Okay, I've explained it. So let me get some more cards. Okay, we got the Nine of Pentacles, and we got the Queen of Wands, and we got the King of Wands, Six of Wands, the King of Pentacles, Seven of Wands, Knight of Pentacles, Page of Cups. So, okay, and then we got the Seven of Pentacles on the bottom. So, we've got the Nine of Pentacles, Queen of Wands, King of Wands, Six of Wands, King of Pentacles, Seven of Wands, Knight of Pentacles, Page of Cups. So so Nine of Pentacles. What am I? Nine of Pentacles? Yeah. A lot of people fall into that category. So the Nine of Pentacles, Queen of Wands, King of Wands. So, this is the thing. Am I gay? Am I bisexual? Am I straight? Well, the thing is, because, well, let's put it this way. I have a gay ass. That's the best way of explaining it. Okay. I want to be, I'm sexually attracted to women, but I have a gay ass, if that makes sense. Okay. So hopefully you can understand what I'm saying. But the thing is, because, people have done so much magic, a lot of this has to do with magic as well, because people are doing all this sex magic. It's, my life is like, I'm just constantly going through the fire. People are constantly trying to put me through fire, basically. And it's like, well, I go through it. That's what I do. Hopefully you can understand that. The Six of Wands card, what is it? People talk about this as the victory card. Well, the number 6, then the major arcana, is the Lovers card, right? The horse, the word horse is very similar to the word whore. So, that suggests sex, right? So this is what the magic of this card is really all about. It's about sex magic. See, the thing about tarot cards is that I mean, the Freemasons have a very, they use tarot cards. If you search Freemasons and tarot, there are um, presentations done by Freemasons at Freemason lodges, talking about tarot. And you're probably aware of, most people will probably, if you've been following me, you should be aware of that by now. So, I mean, this is the thing, because, you know how people talk about sex trafficking and, how secret societies, they can use, they do things like child sex trafficking. They people have all these ideas about that, don't they? And them doing rituals and stuff like that. But this is the thing: when Spirit was trying to tell you something important, like, you know, there's some, when Spirit is, people want to use tarot cards, and they want to try to get messages from Spirit about, um, oh, how much money am I going to have, or, what's my next relationship going to look like, or, things like that. Um, but Spirit, wants to, we want to resolve issues, right? Spirit wants to resolve issues, terrible things that are going on in the world, things like, child sex trafficking. Obviously, I don't want that happening. I'm God. I don't want that happening. Yeah. But the thing is about these cards is that, how would you know what's really going on? How would you know? Because these are basically sex magic cards. They're designed to hide what people do. So, anyways, now I've made that point, right? So, Nine of Pentacles, Queen of Wands, King of Wands, Six of Wands. So whether you consider me a King of Wands or a Queen of Wands, or, well, basically what this is saying, my justice is to have Nine of Pentacles, Queen of Wands. I'm King of Wands, the Queen of Wands. I get to have sex, and I'm gonna be a King of Pentacles. This is me making a stand. This is me fighting back against Knight of Pentacles, who are Page of Cups, because the world is full of horrible people doing horrible things that they shouldn't be doing. And the thing is that I'm trying to fix an evil world, basically. I'm trying to fix an evil world, and people were given an opportunity with the New Testament, right? With Jesus Christ. But a lot, if people missed that boat, let's say, um, now they can have a chance of, we can do this in a different way, right? We can do this in a different way. I get to be the devil. And, people, um, people get a choice. They can either hate me or they can love me. And, you know, we'll go one way or the other. So, it's all about, ultimately, what's it really about? It's about me saving people. It's okay. All right. So, Jesus Christ wasn't good enough for you. He didn't manage to save you. So let's try to save you in a different way. Do you understand? So that is what's happening here. So, hmm. Okay, let's start a different reading. Okay. Um, I mean, obviously, in the Bible, it talks about, when Jesus returns, he'll come for his bride. Yeah. Um, so, I'm still waiting. um, I mean, that's the thing, right? What does bride mean? Well, be ride, be ride, Well, I've written a lot of things in my life. I've written quite a few things. Um, you know, demons might be like, "Oh, that was your bride," or "That was your bride." It's like, no. um, but hopefully you get the point. Anyway, let's get some more cards. Tell you what, where's my? Oh, hang on. Get a few puffs. Okay. Right. Let's get a few. Let's get a few more cards. Um. Okay. We've got 5 of Swords. 5 of Swords. Knight of Swords. Five of Pentacles. So obviously, if you're familiar with the tarot, yeah, the Hierophant card, number 5. Okay, so people will say, they'll get the Hierophant card and they'll say, oh, that's the church, or that's God, or that's the high priest, or that's the Pope, or maybe they'll say, oh, it's some institution or cult or whatever. Okay, and it's all connected with sex, magic, sodomy, right? Sodomy, sex, magic, Taurus, like Taurus, yeah. The bull. My mom was a Taurus, and her name was Fee. And you might know what feces are, yeah. anyways, um, look, the 5 of Swords. The swords to do with communication, yeah, and logic. The 5 of Swords is about um I'm trying to think, what does the Thoth card look like? The 5 of Swords. I've forgotten what it looks like. But anyways, the Rider-Waite deck. And I mean, that's the thing as well, right? Because the Lenormand's deck, well, the first card is called the Rider or the Cavalier, depending, obviously they're different decks. But here's the Rider-Waite deck. Yeah, the 5 of Swords. So this has to do with conflict and defeat. Yeah. It's like there's been it looks like, it looks like there's been a battle, doesn't it? There's these two guys, they've walked away. Their swords are, there seems to be two swords that it looks like they've dropped on the floor. But then there's this guy, he's holding two swords in his right hand, and he's got a one sword pointed down in his left hand. And it's like, well, you could say that they've had a battle. Obviously, this is how people interpret this card, but really, I mean, you could say it's something else. It's just a bunch of guys surrounded by a bunch of swords. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you could say so much about this card, couldn't you? Really? Um, it could be just totally nothing. It could just be like, well, some guys put their swords on the ground and maybe they're wandering off to take a piss somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Um, but it's interpreted as conflict or a defeat. And then there's the Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords. Um, and then we got the Five of Pentacles. What is the Five of Pentacles? People think, oh, well, that's to do with financial hardship, but I mean, if you look at the card, there's these people that are outside of what looks like a church. I mean, obviously, Taurus is Taurus is the fifth card of the major arcana, and that is to do with the high priest or the pope or the religious institution. This how many places do you see with stained glass windows? That would that would mean, well, let's put these are people outside in the cold outside of a church. So yeah, this could be financial hardship or being left out in the cold, or it could be these are people who they're just not part of the church. These are people who they're not of the church, they're not of the body of Christ, right? So they've gone their way, they've gone some other way. And so this is the thing, people keep trying to do this to me. They want to leave me out in the cold. The world wants to constantly leave me out in the cold again and again and again and again and again. And it has to do with this. This is a magic card. It can be interpreted in several different ways. And that's why there's always this magic battle. And the only way that this can be solved is, through acknowledgement of who I am. So, what's this trying to say? There needs to be some sort of defeat of, there's all these people talking rubbish, basically. Or people trying to put me down or, leave me out in the cold, or, people are saying that I'm some weirdo on the internet who's lost his mind. You know, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to shut this down. I'm trying to stop this from happening. That's what I'm trying to do. So, and then we got the Hierophant on the bottom of the deck. Yeah. So let's get some more cards. We got the Strength card. And then we got the Ten of Swords. And then we got the Two of Cups. The Ten of Cups. And then we got the Ace of Swords. I got a bunch of cards here. We got the Four of Pentacles, Two of Pentacles, and the Three of Pentacles. And then we got the Magician on the bottom. So, okay. So what we got here is we got the Five of Swords, Knight of Swords, Five of Pentacles, Strength, Ten of Swords, Two of Cups, Ten of Cups, Ace of Swords, Four of Pentacles, Two of Pentacles, Three of Pentacles. So, yeah. So, there needs to be a defeat of, there needs to be an ending. There needs to be there's all these people who are saying bad things. There there are people who are trying to siphon my energy and attacking me. There's this attack, there's this hating on me and siphon, trying to steal from me. People keep trying, people are, there are so many different people attacking me. So what they do is they try to, someone will accuse me of being someone else who's attacking me, and they'll try and play me off like that. They'll keep trying to, there are lots of different people who are trying to attack me from different angles. Yeah. And so, yeah. Anyway. So there's all these people who want to leave me out in the cold, and the strength card. Yeah. So, like I said, Aaliyah Dana Houghton, she's sat on my face, right? Leo. Well, her butt is on my face. Aaliyah's butt is on, her O is on my face. Leo, right? And then people want to do magic against what I eat. It's like I already explained it. So, this is to do with strength and lust and courage and fortitude. There's this betrayal, this Ten of Swords betrayal, Two of Cups, people getting together, people hooking up, people, that's their happiness. That's, they're very happy. Ten of Cups, Ace of Swords, Four of Pentacles, Two of Pentacles, Three of Pentacles. So, people are, very lustful, and, people want to have lots of different sexual partners. And the thing is that I get caught up with all this because in terms of magic, people like to manifest. People are constantly trying to siphon my energy. People, the idea, with Jesus Christ, it was like, give glory to God, because, even those people, even those who are followers of Christ are still, they living off God's energy. But, by giving glory to God and saying, hey, God, I realize you're God, and this is because of you. It's basically, it creates a feedback loop. It's like saying, yeah, I understand that the energy I'm living in, you've, it's saying, it's basically saying, yeah, I know where this energy's come from, right? So, what's an Ace of Swords? Is this to do with, in different languages, the word ace, it reads like ass, right? In French and Italian, I think, I'm not sure which languages, but, is this a sore ass? The word sordid, what does sordid mean? Yeah. So you see what I'm up against. Yeah. There's all this deception and lies that are being used, magic tricks, to try and twist things against me. And people, so there's, okay, so the Ten of Cups, and there's the Ace of Swords, Four of Pentacles, Two of Pentacles, Three of Pentacles. So, people are, they're possessive, wanting to hold on to things. And people are doing things like magic. I mean, for instance, all these YouTube channels where it's they're just constantly. I mean, if I look at, for instance, Linda Likes Tarot, look at how she does the thumbnails for her videos, how deceptive they are, and how, she's just putting one thing after another, after another, after another, so that there's all this spell work. It's just creating this massive web of spell work. Um, it just becomes, it's all about harvesting energy. That's all it's about. It's talking shit and hating God and, oh, I know, I'll take all this energy for myself. I'll take all of that. Yeah, I'll take all of this. Um, you know, and, if, you know, all I require is acknowledgement. That's really all I require. But her name is Linda. It's Lee in da, right? So that's the thing. What does da mean? Well, da is a short way of saying dad. A dad is a way of saying father. I'm God. Yeah? I mean, I've literally got my face stuck between Aaliyah Dana Houghton's buns. Yeah? Aaliyah Dana, Dana. Yeah, Aaliyah Dana Houghton. And you got all these people, they've got ADHD. What's ADHD? Oh, I wonder what that is. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, right? Um, yeah. I mean, this is how crazy it gets. I mean, people, there's so many problems happening in this world. People with mental health problems, people dying, um, war. I affect everybody. You know, wouldn't it be great if we could just sort this out and we could make everything better? Like, I'm not opposed to working together. I want to work together to build a better future. That's what I want to do. Um, Give me a second. So, the thing is that, the people who help me the most, if people are going to help me, then obviously I have rewards for people who help me. That's how it goes. Um, I want to be happy. I want to put myself first. Yeah. I want to be the star. I mean, I mean, this is the hilarious thing, right? Because I'm the creator of the universe. I'm basically the sun. Like the sun in the sky. I mean, it reflects. It's really what I'm like. People love to bask in my energy. Like, oh, I love the sun rays coming down on me. I feel warm. I like the sunshine. It's great. But, you don't want to stare at me directly because, you'd be like, yeah, I don't want to go blind. You know what I mean? That's what it's like being, that's kind of what I'm like. Um, so, the world is illuminated by me. There's all these people mimicking me, copying me, talking about me, doing art about me, whatever it is about me. all day long. I mean, I affect the news. Okay, I affect what goes on in the world. Um, I've had a very interesting time trying to figure out like how do I make things happen? Like if I want to make it rain, like how do I do that? Or just trying to figure out little magic tricks. Like how can I do this? How can I do that? What triggers it? And I've been experimenting for a couple of years and trying to figure out all this stuff, how to do it. It's quite interesting, really. Um, yeah. But anyway, um, yeah, I'm not. Well, I don't want to. What I'm trying to. What is it I was going to say? Um, I get this sense. People are they don't want they don't want me coming in as this authority figure who's going to be saying like you got to do this, you got to do that, blah 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 blah. Yeah, I don't really want to have to um do that either. But the thing is, like if you're a tarot card reader and you're twisting the narrative to suit yourself, that's not good. You can't, I mean, that's the problem with tarot cards and divination. It's, people want to use these ways of divination, like trying to pick up a signal, trying to pick up this information, but then trying to putting a different story on top of it, or trying to, do a 180 all the time. There has to be, you know, there has to be honesty. There has to be, we need to get problems solved. Um, we need to fix things. We need to, otherwise, you could say, oh, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Well, if everyone just keeps doing this to me and they say, oh, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, well, it will fail. It's going to fail. I mean, first of all, I'm not afraid to die. Okay, I want to. The only reason I've kept going is because I know who I am now. But years ago, I had already had enough. I was like, I'm done. Like, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this because I feel horrible. I was drinking lots of alcohol and I felt very, very unhappy. Um, and I've kept going. I've kept going. I know who I am now, and I'm not afraid. You know, um, I will. I have to do what I have to do. Um, I live forever. Yeah, I live forever. I won't always. Um, you know, you know, will I be in this body forever? Probably not. Do you know what I mean? Like, I live forever. But the thing is, you know, people think that they can ignore me, um, and you can escape the consequences of that. Well, no one's escaping the consequences of ignoring me. I mean, if you can't see that already, then you know, I think some people they think I'm just trying to capitalize on bad news. Like, oh look, something bad happened. Oh, that happened because I'm good, and I'm if you don't do what I say, then you're going to have more problems and more problems. Well, I'm sorry, but the truth is, I'm God. And, people keep trying to siphon my energy. And that, and because people keep fighting with, there's this energy magic battle happening all the time, people keep doing stupid things. And that leads to disasters. People do crazy, crazy things. And I'm trying to put a stop to it. So there really is no escape from. I'm the only escape from disaster, basically. You can't. There has to be truth. There has to be acknowledgement of who I am. Otherwise, um, you know, there's going to be disaster. And I can't. You might argue, yeah, but why is that fair? Why do you get to be in that position? Why do you get um to do that to everybody? Well, that's just how it is. I have no way of changing that. That's simply how it is. I've created human beings, I created the universe, but my power is um beyond anybody else's. And that's how it is. There's really not much I can, people, all I want to be, I want people to acknowledge me. I want people to know who I am. And I want people to put me where I belong, somewhere nice, somewhere where I'm happy. Um, and, there's all this corruption in the world, corrupt politicians and, secret societies doing all sorts of evil things. Wouldn't you want that stuff to stop? Wouldn't you want all this horrible? I mean, nothing's getting better. Do you know what I mean? Like, people are just going to get poorer and more miserable, and you know, you need to stop deluding yourselves. You can't survive without me. So we need to find a way to coexist. And I need yeah, yeah, let's try being friends. I don't want to make you feel like you're under so much pressure you can't take it. But at the same time, we need to make things move in the direction that they need to go. Um, yeah, I'm tired of waiting. I'm very tired of waiting. I really am. Um, but my house is a total mess. Um, and yeah, it's not good. It's not good. If I had to leave this place and go somewhere else for a while, I could probably do that. I got plenty of money to to work with for a while. Yeah, I could go for many years, without ever having to get a job, if I wanted to do that. So I'm in a position. I'm in a good position to dig my heels in, if you know what I'm saying. Um, yeah, people keep trying to say things like, "Oh, he borrowed someone's car," or he must have crashed that car, or he hasn't really got any money left. He spent it all. People keep talking, saying all kinds of shit about me. And it's like, no, 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 I got money. I've got, I've got some money. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I can look after myself financially. For now, but obviously, I'd like to get to somewhere where I'm a lot richer. Um, I'm God, and I'm looking at people like Rihanna and ASAP Rocky, or I'm looking at Donald Trump and I'm looking at King Charles III. I'm thinking, hang on a minute, I'm God, and who the fuck are they? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I should be where they are. Do you want to help me get there? Or do we just want to keep arguing? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if you help me, if the people who help me, do you know what I mean? Like, well, if I feel like you've helped me get to someone, you know what I mean? Like, I want to have, I will not forget that. I'm not, if you help me get me to where I need to be, then obviously there will be big rewards for that. If I think you deserve that, you will get rewards for that. So, I'm trying to make an offer. I'm making offers here, right? Um, so, you need to think about it. Have a think about it, what you want to do. Okay? Um, so I think I'll end this video because it's been a long video. But I'll grab some more cards. Um, grab some more cards, okay? See if there's anything else we want to say. Okay. Okay. Okay, we got the Two of Swords. Come on, give me a card. Oh. Yeah, hang on. I have my own way of shuffling. Yeah. Okay, I've got two cards here. We got the King of Pentacles. And we got the Eight of Pentacles. Nine of Pentacles. Take these. Ace of Wands, the Fool, Four of Wands. Okay, so let me start here. Okay, we got the Seven of Wands on the bottom. Okay, so the Two of Swords, a really interesting card, isn't it? I mean, what's the deal with that? Okay, so she's blindfolded, so she can't see anything. But what's behind her? It's the sea, isn't it? So, yeah. This is a really annoying magic card because, obviously, well, that's the thing, right? God created Adam. How did God create Adam? Well, he created him from the dirt of the ground and he breathed life into his nostrils. So you see, the universe is connected to my butt and my crap, right? It is what it is. So, the two of swords. Well, this is the thing. What's the number two? Right? So the two of swords, it's to do with blocking. It's to do with, that she's, this person, she doesn't want to see the truth. Right? This is someone who's opposed to the truth. Right? They're like, nope, I don't want to see the truth. I'm gonna, I'm blindfolded. She's got her arms in an X shape, right? Obviously, the X is also associated with the Wheel of Fortune. Yeah. She's got her back turned to the sea. Well, I'm the sea. I'm God. I'm the one who sees, right? I see the truth. And the people who, they want to do this to me, they want to turn their backs to me and they want to play games with me. Um, but then, well, in the Thoth deck, what's the title? It says Peace Restored. Peace Restored. Well, it's an interesting title, isn't it? I mean, the thing is that society is trying to block me because they're afraid of me, because they're afraid of being judged. There are a lot of demons, you see. People are tempted by demons. Demons conspire to prevent me from telling the truth. It's all about trying to block me. It's basically, people keep using siphoning. The people try to siphon my energy, and then people go worship false people. It's false god after false god. It's all about setting up false gods, right? Saying, oh, Rihanna, she's God, or ASAP Rocky, he's God, or whatever, right? It's all society and demons. They conspire to hide me and block me, and it's all about trying to escape judgment. It's trying to delay it as much as possible. I mean, think of the word delay, delay, right? It sounds like someone's trying to have sex, doesn't it? Weird that. Anyways, the Two of Swords and there's the King of Pentacles. So, which king, and then we got the Eight of Pentacles, Nine of Pentacles, Ace of Wands, the Fool, Four of Wands. So, are we talking about King Charles here? Okay, so King Charles, yeah. I mean, King Charles, the royal family, those people, they're obviously connected with Freemasonry, aren't they? And look at the scandals they're involved with, whether, Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, what do you think these people are doing? These people are using magic to try to block me. Yeah. They're trying to use magic. King Charles the Third, right? Or we got the Eight of Pentacles there, right? Number 3 is associated with the Empress, isn't it? Number 4 is associated with the Emperor. My cousin, who's called Andrew, by the way, his wife is called Eva, and her name is spelled I-V-A. Yeah. Andrew used to be King David. Yeah, the one that was in the Bible. And, my understanding is that he was actually Adam, which is interesting because he's an accountant, a chartered accountant, and he uses spreadsheets and he likes his calculators and stuff like that. His dad, Donald, he used to be Abraham. And Donald is also the name of the President of the United States of America. So my uncle-in-law, who's the dad of Andrew and Philip, those are his two sons. Donald, his name's Donald Neal, and he's married to a woman called Christine Neal. Now, these people are not religious. They're God haters. They hate me. I mean, they'll try to pretend that they love me, but they're only interested in destroying me, through magic and trickery. So, I've had to completely cut those people off. The problem being, though, is that the house that I'm currently living in, is was it became it's supposed to be my house, but my mom died, and her sister Christine, my aunt, she's the executor of my mom's will. So, and she's using witchcraft. She's using magic to try to prevent me from moving forward. And then there's all these other people, neighbors and people, who are trying to trap me with chariot magic, or people talking shit about me, people attacking me with, magic and all kinds of shit. Um, and then there's the guy who has the same name as my dad. Oh, right. Yeah, Father. Father, why have you forsaken me? Yeah. Anyway, Charles, who has the same, Charles the Third, he's got the same birthday as me, the 14th of November. Not the same year, obviously, but um, yeah, you know, there's this, they are fighting me. They are trying to escape me, okay? Because there are some very evil people in this world who don't want to get caught, yeah? And I'm supposed to catch them, right? I'm supposed to get this sorted. So, we need honesty, we need truth, I need acknowledgement, I need help, I need assistance, right? I could use it. I could certainly use it. Um, but also understand that, I am God and I win anyway. You know, that's really what I am. I'm this entire situation is, well, I can't really lose. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's the truth. I can't really. Um, I would rather, instead of things going really horribly, things actually went well. I would prefer that things, we could work together to sort things out, and we can get rid of the bad guys, um, that need to be gotten rid of, um, and have a good time. And obviously, I take priority because I'm God. That's basically how I want things to go. Um, I don't want to make it overly complicated. So, yeah, but I have to take priority because I'm God. See, the thing is, I should probably explain something, but um, there's all this magic going on in the world. When a man meets a woman and a woman meets a man, what really happens there in terms of magic? Well, these people are constantly trying to pretend they're me or they're in a relationship with me, because it's all about manifestation power. And it's using all these little magic tricks to try to pretend that they're in a relationship with me when they're actually in a relationship with someone who isn't me. And so, there's lots of ways I could explain that. Um, but yeah, it's, I'd probably do a separate video on that if I had to do that. Um, but it's awful from my perspective, because there's all these people, you got all these people who they mimic me, they pretend to be me through magic trickery. And and there's all these women, beautiful women, and they're they're pretending they're in a relationship with me, and I've been treated like shit my entire life, basically. um and I feel totally rejected. It's a horrible experience, really. I want people, I need people. Well, you know I wish people would just be like, yeah, you know what, you're really powerful. Like, we don't see anyone else around here as powerful as you in terms of magic power. Like, what's going on with you then? Like, give way to the idea that I'm God. Just I am. Um, but this is the thing. I what I would like moving forward is acknowledgement, and I need to sort my life out. You know, the thing is, because people are gonna want to have relationships with me. Um, because of my energy. Well, I would, yeah. I mean, this is the thing, right? Because if people are in relationships and like saying, "Oh yeah," if a woman gets with a man, it's like, "Oh yeah, you're God to me. You're my God." Yeah. I mean, how many times have I heard of watched a porn movie, and someone's going, "Oh my God, oh my God." Yeah. Oh right, yeah. So what's she really saying? You know what marriage is. People get married. Oh, who's Mary? All right, Mary. We're getting married, are we? Hmm. We're all getting married. Mm-hmm. Um. Yeah. The son. Who's the son? Oh, and who's the father? Or the fat her? Is it the father or is it the fat her? Or what? You know what I mean? Like, people are doing all sorts of crazy magic. I can't. I'm trying to do the best I can. If people want to, if a woman doesn't want to be with me, that's her choice. Do you know what I mean? Like, if people can make their own, people can make their choices, right? All I want is acknowledgement. I'm God. I'm here. I'm the second coming of Jesus Christ, and I'm gonna do what I want to do. Um, and people can either respect that or not. And I wanna, be able to, you know, live a life of luxury and do what I want to do. And if the police are like, "That's illegal, you can't do that," it's like, "Yes, I fucking can. I'm good. Who the fuck are you?" You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the kind of life I want to live. Yeah, I want to be able to just do what I want to do, and no one can tell me what to do. And whoever helps me get there, will get rewarded for it if they deserve it. So that's try to think of it from that perspective. Okay. um I mean, do you know what I mean? Like, why do I deserve so much hate from people? Why do people con this is the thing, right? I look around YouTube, all the tarot readers, they're just constantly talking about me. They're trying it's always about me or something going on around me. And it's a battle against me, every single time. And it's all, it's like a jigsaw puzzle that I just put it all back together again. And it's I'm bored of it. It's so boring. My body hurts, and I don't like living in a house of dirt and grime, and I mean, I could go live in a hotel, go to a nice hotel. I could go to Thailand. I could go. Um, I've got lots of options if I really wanted to do it. I mean, like, I'm not afraid of taking big risks. I'm used to taking very big risks. So, yeah, yeah, I'll do what I feel like I have to do. But ultimately, yeah, I just want, recognition. I'm tired of saying to people, I'm God. And they're like, no, you're not. It's like, well, prove it. It's like, what do you want? Like, what have I got to do? What have I got to do? Um, yeah. Well, it's a very different world than it was 2,000 years ago. A lot of people with their computers and tablets and phones and social media and cinemas and nightclubs and all this stuff. Books, games, billions and billions and billions and billions of people. The world wouldn't look the way it is if it wasn't for Jesus Christ. For me, if it wasn't for me, you think, like, how everything happened, you know, the progress of mankind. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where would everyone be now? What would the world look like? I don't know. It's worth thinking about, though, isn't it? Um, so yeah. I'm just trying to think. Is there anything I haven't said that I want to say? Um, oh wait, yeah. I was in the middle of this reading, wasn't I? It was the two. Got all these cards the wrong way around now. So look, there was the two of swords. Um, the king of pentacles. Eight of pentacles. Oh, there was a nine of pentacles as well. Yeah, it was those three. Wait, hang on. I don't know where this card fits into the reading. Anyways, but yeah, society society is, you know, the people who are in power, right? These king of pentacles with loads of money who've been up to no good, and they're involved with all kinds of nasty things, because all they were ever interested in was power. All they cared about was, um, dominion. Yeah, they want magic power. They want to be able to, you know, people who are involved with secret societies, sex trafficking, and trying to manipulate people, and they don't care who lives, who dies. They don't care if they ruin millions of people's lives. They only care about themselves. Yeah. I mean, it's a very interesting, thing, isn't it? Because, obviously I'm God, I was Jesus Christ, and there's so many people, they've abandoned me, right? they've abandoned me, and they've, and then there's been all these problems, and there's been all this corruption and deception and destruction and all these things, and people have felt the effects of those things, right? Um, yeah, I mean, you know, I'm here to fix things. People. This is like I've explained. People they can't survive without me. So maybe people just want to watch me deteriorate and drop dead. Um, while pointing their finger at me and laughing at me. That won't end well. That won't end well. Um, so you know, well, I want you to know. Um, so, um, I just want to. Well, I'm making this video. It's whether you accept what I'm saying or you don't, or whether you're sort of you might entertain the idea. Um, at least it's something. At least I've made the video, at least you might have watched it, and at least we might make some progress. And then we can just see where things go. Um, so let's get another reading, just one last reading, and that'll do. Okay. So there was the Two of Swords and the King of Pentacles, and I mean this is the thing, because this magic is connected with my dad, because my dad, Charles Salvin, who lives in Scotland, he lives in Aberdeen. Last time I checked, he he left me when I was a kid, and I was raised by my mom, my grandparents, basically. And that's the thing, right? Because God is called Father, right? And so there are all these demons. They all want to say, "Oh, but Charles is the father. Charles is the father," or Joseph was the father, right? Or people keep trying to play these tricks, and that's really annoying. And while there's all these people around the world who are cokeheads, putting Charlie up their nose. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Always Coca-Cola, yeah. Anyways, yeah. So I've got that to contend with. Yeah. So, obviously I want Donald Trump and King Charles III. Those are two guys I want to get rid of. Okay. I need to deal with them because they're basically my, I guess you could say they're my worst. They're my biggest obstacles, really. They're my biggest obstacles. And well, and this is the thing, I'm God. Why should crazy people who are involved with child sex trafficking, why should I, you know, these people, they're surrounded by demons. They don't want me in power. They don't, people are trying to avoid judgment. Okay. So, people need to understand that I've got to do what I got to do. You can help me get there or not. I'm sorry I'm rambling. I really am. All right, a couple more cards. And then that'll be it. Okay, because I've got to go. Okay, we've got the Fool, the Four of Pentacles, and the Ace of Swords. And then we got the Ten of Cups. Oh. Okay, and we've got Justice, Three of Swords, the Lovers, the Four Cups, Seven of Wands, the Chariot, Nine of Cups, Queen of Swords, Seven of Swords, Ace of Pentacles, Death, I'll tell you what, I'll stop there, I think, because, yeah. So, the Fool, Four of Pentacles, Ace of Swords, Ten of Cups, Justice, Three of Swords, the Lovers, Four of Cups, Seven of Wands, the Chariot, Nine of Cups, Queen of Swords, Seven of Swords, Ace of Pentacles, Death. Ugh. Flipping it. Yeah. So, the Fool. New journey, the Fool, Four of Pentacles. Holding on to stuff. The Fool, Four of Pentacles. Ace of Swords, Ten of Cups, Justice, Three of Swords, the Lovers, Four of Cups, Seven of Wands, the Chariot, Nine of Cups, Queen of Swords, Seven of Swords, Ace of Pentacles, Death, Page of Wands, Five of Pentacles, Seven of Pentacles, the High Priestess, Eight of Cups. I mean, this is the problem with tarot. You know, people do lots of tarot readings, and it's like, well, there's, you know, children being sex trafficked and potentially sacrificed. Yeah. And then, you know, people want to read the messages like, oh, who am I fucking this weekend? Or, oh, am I getting some money? Am I? Oh, okay then. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, no, 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 no. Spirit's trying to say, you know, this is what, you know, why do people do child sex trafficking? Well, you know, this is, you know, it has to do with magic power. You know, it's about, there's magic reasons why they do those things, and it's a, you know, it's about trying to it's about creating a false light. That's what it is. It's creating a false light that people are controlled by it. That's the thing. That's what it is. It's about control and power. Um, you know, that's kind of what I get the feeling when I look at these cards. But anyway, the Fool. You know, what's the Fool? You know, are we going on a journey? Is this guy a complete fucking idiot? We got the Four of Pentacles. You know, this is hoarding, holding on to stuff. Well, what is the Four of Pentacles? You know, people want to hold on to stuff. Well, number four is the Emperor, right? You notice how he's sitting down like he's on a throne. But you know, what are the Four of Pentacles? Well, I'm the Four of Pentacles. I'm God. I'm the Emperor. Basically, you know, that's what I am. I'm the Four of Pentacles, and then people want to hoard on to stuff, and you know, they want to be in this possessive holding on to stuff, and then pretending that they're me. It's like, no, you're not me. You see, if people actually acknowledge that I'm God, then this problem goes away. Like the money you hold on to, you know, if you acknowledge who I am, then, you know, you having lots of money, well, it doesn't really become a problem. You know, it's not the same problem as it used to be. Do you understand? That's why acknowledging who I am is so important. Um, you know, we got the Ace of Swords, so the Four of Pentacles, and this Ace of Swords. Um, and then we got the Ten of Cups. You know, I could, you know, the Ace of, I mean, this is the thing, right? Because someone, you know, if you know, for instance, you know, with sex trafficking, well, you know, those are, you know, you could, you know, people could say, well, that's a piece of ass. Yeah, and that's being held onto. It's being possessed. It's being held, right? And then you've got the Swords. Yeah, the Ass of Swords, right? And then you go, oh, that makes me happy. Ten of Cups, and then we got, you know, Justice, you know, and then we got Three of Swords. There's this heartbreak, this grief, and then we got the Lover's card, right? I mean, the thing about the Justice card is obviously it's tied with the idea of lust and strength and fortitude and courage, right? So if someone's, you know, they're into, you know, kinky BDSM and sex magic, anal sodomy and stuff like that, and then you want us to call that justice. You know what I mean? Like these ideas have got mixed together intentionally in order, and this is why all these horrible things are happening. So we got the Three of Swords and the Lovers. So Justice, and then we got the Three of Swords, the Lovers. And then there's the Four of Cups. Well, what's the Four of Cups? What's the Four of Cups? I mean, look at my Facebook page. You know, I started this Facebook page, my new one. I started it in 2022, January 2022. On January the 6th, I think. Um, So, the number 4 is associated with the emperor. Here's the clouds. I mean, you could say that's the internet, right? I'm constantly trying to hand a cup to people. So, like, hey, take a cup. Hey, take a cup. And then there's this guy sitting under a tree and he's like, no, fuck off. No, fuck off. It's like, I don't want your cup. Go away. Um, yeah, this is the problem, right? Because I'm God. I'm the emperor. I would look like a total fucking idiot if I'm God and someone else is the emperor and he's like, hey, I'm the authority figure, and God's that guy who lives in the garbage heap that no one cares about. I'd be a total idiot, wouldn't I? Well, yeah, I would, wouldn't I? But anyways, there's the 4 of Cups card. So the 3 of Swords, the Lovers, the 4 Cups, and then there's the 7 of Wands. Is that making a stand? But obviously it's the number 7, and so there's the Chariot. And what is the Chariot? Well, the Chariot is the car. It's the bed as well, right? It's the ride. That's right. It's the ride. And then obviously, a wand is basically, well, it could be a penis, right? And so, you got the bed and the penis, and then you got your 7 wands, and then you got the Chariot, right? You see how deceptive these cards are, right? So you got the 9 of Cups, right? So here's a guy who's on his own. Yeah, 9 is the number of the Hermit. And then what's the Hermit? Or was it her bum? Is it her it? Or, what are we talking about? Do you know what I mean? Like, we got the Queen of Swords, and then we got the 7 of Swords, the sneaky and deception, and then the Ace of Pentacles. Well, the Ace of Pentacles, it could be an asshole. That's what it is. It's the how people talk about, they say eat shit. Well, that's the thing. The anus, that's what it does. It shits. Shit is a verb, right? So what is shit? Well, the asshole is shit. You understand? So the 7 of Swords, the deception, and then there's the Ace of Pentacles, the death. So this is why people keep doing sodomy sex magic. It's the sting in the tail. It's the death of the anus, basically, isn't it? It's the, because obviously in the Bible, it talks about the wheat and the tares, right? The wheat and the tares, or the wheat and the chaff. And so, yeah. It's a magic. It's just the sting in the tail. It's a magic thing. And then we got the Page of Wands. So is this talking about young? We've got the Page of Wands, and then we got the 5 of Pentacles, 7 of Pentacles, the High Priestess, 8 of Cups. Well, that's the thing, right? Because, the High Priestess, she's the number 2. She's a poo. And then you got the 8 of Cups, right? So, these may as well be, cups filled with shit. That's what it is. That's the thing about the number 8. That's the magic of number 8, is to do with food. So, yeah, this is quite a complicated reading, this one. So let's start again. The Fool. I mean, the Fool, he's the 0, isn't he? So he's basically just the arsehole, isn't he? The nun. Yeah, you know what Catholic nuns. Oh, there's lots of them, aren't there? There's none. They like to pretend there's none of them, but there's lots of them. Yeah. The 4 of Pentacles. So the Fool and the 4 of Pentacles. Well, I already explained the connection with this card, didn't I? So, people want to pretend they're me. They want to be hoarders. They want to possess. They want to hold on to their money and be like, yeah, I'm a Four of Pentacles. It's like, and then they're like, oh, but now I'm the Emperor. Or it people try to hop from one energy to another. Do you know what I'm saying? They keep trying to use magic trickery to try to build themselves up to be something that they're not. But like I said, you know, what's the problem? The real problem is that no one will acknowledge who I am. And I've been doing this for years, and I haven't had acknowledgement from anybody. I've not heard a single person be say, "Hey, Grant, I believe you're God." Nope, not a single person. Not one person. And I'm willing to to die, to I'm not giving in. I'm not going to be like, hey, I'm not good. Because I know who I am. Okay, I don't need anyone else to tell me, hey, you're God, for me to believe that. I already know who I am. I just need other people to acknowledge me. Well, if people acknowledge me, it solves problems. So we've got Ace of Swords, Ten of Cups. The Fool, Four of Pentacles, Ace of Swords, Ten of Cups. And then we got the Justice. So what are we trying to say here? Justice. And then we got the Three of Swords, the Lovers, Four of Cups, Seven of Wands, the Chariot, Nine of Cups. Queen of Swords, Seven of Swords, Ace of Pentacles, Death, Page of Wands, Five of Pentacles, Seven of Pentacles. Yeah. So, I mean, the thing about this is that, I was Jesus Christ. So, that death of mine is associated with my past because it was literally who I used to be. I've been other people as well. I'll mention I was Horatio Nelson and apparently King Leonidas as well. That's what I'm told. Okay. And as bonkers as that is, yeah. But the thing is with the sex magic, with the death, people, because people keep doing sodomy, and obviously that's become very popular. Things have changed. Since I was born in 1987, people have really changed a lot, haven't they? Yeah, there's been a lot of changes. But the fact is that people do this this death magic in it's the sting in the tail, sodomy, death magic, Scorpio. It's the card right next to the Hanged Man card, isn't it, where he's hanging upside down. Obviously the Hanged Man is associated with the moon because of Pisces. And then you got the Scorpio card, death. Okay. Yeah. Justice. Three of Swords, the Lovers. Well, look, there are going to be people who are going to be unhappy, because people want to screw around, people want to do what they want to do. And, they're going to have to be faced with the realization that I'm God, I'm here. Um, my story is what it is, okay? My life has been shitty because people are only interested in trying to screw me over um, and siphon energy from me while everyone fucks around like a bunch of monkeys. Um, do you know what I mean? Like, what else can I say? People, and look, people have to understand that. Well, people are afraid of being judged, and they don't want to be judged. But people are going to be judged whether they like it or not. Now, my suggestion is help me rather than try to block me. Because if you block, do you know what I mean? Because if you actually help me, get me to where I need to be, then, that's better for you. And it's better for me as well. Um, I'm not, um, I didn't want to, at the end of the day, ooh, excuse me, let me just move my legs. Ugh, ow. Um, I don't want to come here and tell you what to do every little thing. You have to, you know, you have to listen to spirit. Yeah, you have to know, I'm not here to tell you, you know, you can do this, you can do that. I'm here to have fun. I want to have fun. I want to be happy. I want to screw around, screw loads of women and party like there's no tomorrow. I would like to just do what I want to do. And, if people are actually going to let me do that, you know, I'll have rewards for people. But if people are just going to get in the way of that, then, it's, you know, well, you should be able to figure that out. I mean, what is the Eight of Cups? It's like there's this disappointment. He's walking away. This person's walking away from those cups. Are those cups full of shit? Are they full of water? Are we talking about an enema here? Is someone got a douchebag or something like that? They're washing out their colon or something. Do you know what I mean? What are we talking about? Did someone pick up a cup and actually eat it? Um, there've been weirder stories. I mean, there's stories of people who've eaten bikes, right? Like you've heard of a story, oh, man eats bike and then craps out his arse. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Just like, you know what I mean? People do some really crazy things. I wonder why they do those things. Yeah, I wonder why. It's all to do with magic, isn't it? It's always magic. Um. Anyways, I've gone way over time here. Way, 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 way over time here. So, ultimately, I want to be friends. I want things to go smoothly. I don't want to bump heads with people because I would prefer not to. I would prefer not to. But I've said what I've had. I'm good, and if you can accept that, it's going to be better for you. And it's going to be, and of course, it will. Hopefully that will help me as well. So, um, in some way. Um, But this is kind of the reason why I stopped making videos. Because I just thought to myself, you know what? People reject everything I say. They don't want to know. They're not interested. So what I do is I end up just doing what's more effective and just post on Facebook and just show people what a bunch of clowns they really are. And make people look totally stupid. Um, and I mean, there's some tarot readers I listen to, and I think you know what they do a very good job. I won't lie. There's some tarot readers I think wow they actually have some really good words of advice. They really do pick up some really interesting information. But there's most tarot readers are only interested in twisting the narrative and um, taking, they're only interested in manifesting and putting out bullshit stories. Um, so, I mean, that the thing is that, people, they shuffle their cards and they start to argue. They're like, "Oh, spirit, what's the message, spirit?" And then it becomes an argument. It becomes, "Oh, someone wants to do this to you, and someone won't leave you alone. Someone won't leave you." People always use the word you, 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 you. I'm not here to say, I'm here to talk about me. I'm not gonna, people always have to say you, 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 you. Um, when they're really just talking about themselves. Do you know what I mean? They're constantly saying you, 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 when they're really talking about themselves. Yeah, it's rather annoying. It gets rather annoying after a while, especially when people are like, "Oh, collective, collective, collective." It's like my name's not collective. Um, people want to shuffle cards and talk to spirit, and it's like, well, who did you think you would end up talking about? Do you know what I mean? Like, who do you think you're going to talk about? You want to talk with spirit, then who? Do you know what I mean? Like, if you, it's like calling 999 or 911 and then asking for a pizza delivery. Do you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck do you want? um, yeah, it's kind of like that. Um, yeah, but the thing about this is that it's deception. It's all about deception. It's all about being, you know, if you have good intuition, you can get around the deception of these cards, obviously. But if you're not that way inclined, then you're just gonna end up talking all that bullshit, um, and you're gonna end up putting a spin on a story that you didn't get right. You missed the important details basically. So, and that's what most people do. Yeah. All right. Um, so like I said, I'm not looking. I need to do what I have to do, and if people are willing to work with me, that's great. If not, well, I'm just gonna have to do what I have to do, and that'll be that. So, make a decision. If you want to work with me, if you want to help me out, cool. Have a think about it, and we'll see how things go. Okay.